Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Bonjour, Nain. Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's podcast, Mino Mishkiki Wabo, Blackwater Medicine Podcast. Meligard, Nadishnikas, Makwa and Dodem, Makwa and that's my name. My name is Bearman. And I want to talk to you today about cultural, spiritual gifts and seeing. It's a pretty big topic, and there's a lot for me to talk to you about and share. So, as always, I'm going to smudge and do my little protocol for this. This is my way of sort of my sharing circle in a sense. And sometimes you got to find really good matches. Matches is the pinnacle start of every great ceremony, no matter what how beautiful it looks. I should have got this ready, but I didn't yet. So yeah, go. And of course, as I said before, matches is the thing that starts everything. Fire. I want to invite the ancestors who's with me. You know, when I look at this tiny my mini ceremony for my podcast. I smudge in a good way, we speak in a good way, we listen in a good way. We're taught how to be everything in a good way through the ceremonies that we attend. And whatever protocol you follow that protocol. And I'm not saying my protocol's higher than yours. There's acknowledgments of the ancestors that has to get put into every little ceremony and gathering that we do. So spiritual gifts, the ancestors. If there's one thing that I'm always taught during any ceremony, any gathering, if you're holding on to your ego feather and you're praying to the good ways, to the ancestors and to the creator, and to all the other spirits that are out there. We're taught responsibility first. That's the first thing that every person should be having, is responsibility for not only for their items but for themselves. And I'm always warned this. This is one thing I'm always warned about everything that we do when we're going through these ceremonies, is that we don't play around with these things. This is probably one of the most serious things that we should look at as Anishinaabe people, is that anytime we attend ceremonies, anytime we go to a gathering, a sweat lodge or anything, conductors and those presentations and so on are held to a higher standard, because when you invite the spiritual world into your life, you're inviting things that have absolute knowledge, far more than anybody else in any book you've ever come across. And that's what makes us who we are through these ceremonies. Right now I'm letting my sage here speak. And so when I was younger, this elder told me, he said to me, look through everything that you're doing through spiritual eyes. Spiritual eyes, that's the word. Spiritual eyes. See things through the spirits. Look at things through how they would look at it. A holiness that you got to keep to yourself when you're doing these ceremonies. And you don't play around with these things. Now, the warning I'm giving to a lot of people about these things is that you can lie to humans. We're professional liars. We can lie to one another about how great we are. And it's constantly done that. But when we go to the next realm, that's different. It's those spirits out there that really see who we really are, whether we're good or bad. And everything's revealed, And I don't think we talk enough about that in Indian land, in Indian country, is we talk about, the good things. Yeah. But there's people that do evil in good things. But that's that's maybe later on. I'll talk about that maybe later on. And so when we start doing these cultural gatherings and ceremonies, we're doing it. But now lately, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys realize this, but before, whenever you do your protocols, when you do your openings, people were always taught not to film, not to film these gatherings and openings, stuff like that. Always take your hat off. But lately, when you look at the social media sites, you're starting to see people filming these gatherings, a pipe ceremony gathering, these things like that. I'll share you guys a little story. So I was asked to do a presentation for the Two-Spirited people flag raising in Thunder Bay. And it was an honor to do so, And I let a protocol slide. I let this slide. When I first began to hold my pipe there, and I began to tell the people, this is the people's pipe. What I basically did is that I took my pipe and I made every person in the crowd touch it, hold on to it, because that's their pipe. My pipe is their pipe. And so that ceremony after was said and done, the energy that people put in there, that's the people's energy for that. And so when I did my ceremony, I called in the 4 directions and stuff like that. It made me realize, like, we have to do more for educating the non-believers, the non-indigenous people, our allies, about why spirit is such an important thing. It's such an important thing. I get up and I'm always grateful that I got a job that's really great, and I got a good partner that's really beautiful and amazing and strong, because that's creator provides. I always say that creator provides. Creator provides, gives. I mean, it's kind of funny when I say it, because when I say creator provides, what that really means is that if I need a job, or if I really need a good job, all of a sudden I get a call from a really good place where I'm supposed to be at, or someone that's supposed to be with me. Got to be really strong. Believe me, you have to have you got to be a warrior spirit, you know. And so Creator provides with me with everything that I am doing, everything that I'm sharing. But through the Creator provides, as I call it, I'm sharing the teachings of my people just through this, through sharing circles. And I really enjoy doing that. I really love talking to people about things. I love people asking me. And so when you start doing that, you speak in a good way, you listen to a good way, do people do things in a good way. I'm going to get into a little bit of the tea spilling in a minute, not for people, but what's out there. And so, after I did my opening for that, people out there never realize, like, they've never seen a ceremony pipe before. People are coming to me and they're talking to me like, "Oh my God, like, can I see this?" And I was like, "Sure." So I'm showing it to them. And so, anyways, this goes back to before my grandmother. My grandmother's a giving woman. She would share freely these things, free moose meat, free teachings, water gatherings, because that was her lessons. That the stuff that we learned through ceremony is not meant for ourselves, but we meant to share it. And so that we do this. Now, as I said before, I'm going to do a little tea spilling, because commercialization now seems to be a part of these cultural ceremonies. So I'll get into that in a bit to explain the changes and the differences between the old ways and the new ones. So I'm every so often, I'm always asked to do gatherings and sharing circles and stuff like that, and I'm always happy to do so. Like I said before, I'm actually sharing stuff that my uncle and my grandfather taught me. So whenever I get these gatherings and circles happen, I'm just here's what my grandfather would say to you. This is what my uncle Gilbert would say to you. That's basically it. Life lessons in these things. And so I'm the link to that. And so when I do these gatherings, I'm reminded to have respect for these things that have been given to me, and to never, because I know there's a responsibility that I have for that. So today is different. Today's very different. Mental health is the big thing. If you're growing up, Gen X, I'm Gen X. Okay, Gen X. I grew up where there wasn't any special day for Pink Shirt Day. I wasn't there for anti-bullying programs. I grew up in an era where the cool kids rule, bullying was rampant, and you have to learn how to deal with that every day, no matter what it is. Right? That's the generation I grew up with. But with today's uh, there's Pink Shirt Day, there's anti-bullying programs, there's all these different things. So to make it more safe for a lot of people to go to school and to live every day, you know, and that's progress. That's a really good part of today's uh, people getting together and making these changes because that's wrong. I think it's quite wrong. And I think every so often I'll come across someone who I went to school with who will say, hey man, what's going on? Hey, I haven't seen you for like 20 plus years. And then would say, like, look, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be an ass to you. I didn't mean to be a bully to you and things like that, And I don't hold grudges for people like that. I understand, like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all right. It's all good. And, and so, they go on with their life and I go on with my life. Right. But then I see some people who had that motion back in the day and they had it really rough. Like, there's a girl that was really pretty in our school. And I remember how beautiful she was and had that perfect boyfriend. But then she went through hell with them because he was abused in secret. And went on for most of her high school, you know. I thought, wow, that's crazy. That's something I didn't know that she went through. Um so these gifts that were given to us, these spiritual insight. Um I'm sorry, sometimes I trail off, so I'm trying to stay focused on my thing because I'm like that. I'm like that. I always seem to think that those elders that I went through their ceremonies back at home, um, you have to pay attention. You have to really look at these things, and so the spirits will reveal themselves to you, and you'll see looking through the fire through meditation. You'll start seeing things that you won't. That is sort of supernatural and spooky, ghosts and stuff like that. And I was never afraid of spirits back then because I knew that was part of my growing up. My grandma would take me to these to the shaking tents in the old school, the old style, you know, and this would happen. And the conductors and so on would say, okay, your boy's going to be in the go over here for the firekeeping, and you start with that first. And so one of the first lessons I learned growing up was firekeeping. That's one of the first things I learned, like what goes into the fire. So people come by and they share me their stories about firekeeping, and I would like listen and soak it up. And so I began to understand like that doorway is something bigger than. So I still think about all these powerful lessons given to me of how we can never, ever, ever fool the spirit world. Ever. You know. That's the thing about our way of looking at things, that we can never ever fool that. And it sort of got me a little bit of frightened because I was always scared about that. Because, like, oh, I can't be, I can't be like this. But my uncle would say to me, my uncle always says, you know what? No, no, no. You live your life. You be stupid. You're allowed to be foolish and stupid. You're young. You're learning. You're gonna fall. And that's just what it is. That's how I learned, falling down more times than anything else. But when I would attend these ceremonies with the elders and the ceremony people, they would really share with me, this is a very serious time now. Take your hat off. Take your hat off. You show respect to that drum. You take your hat off. You do these things. I grew up that way. That's how I grew up. You know, if you grew up in a differently environment, go for it. That's how you're taught. Ah, and so I began to think about the spiritual gifts that were given to me by seeing and by looking. And I said, I'm never afraid of spirits and ghosts and stuff like that, but I've seen some pretty fair share of things moving around. And I, 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 I'm more now to limit my, um, my teachings with those who are not indigenous any longer. I mean, who are allies, who are white. Anybody else who's part of who's not Anishinaabe. because um, there's a flip side to what makes it also your teachings could become something else. Um, and this is kind of somewhat of an important thing for a lot of people should also start talking about commercialization of our cultural ways. This is quite this is happening quite a bit. People are writing books about ceremonies, and people are writing about. Now, I love history. I really do. I love our history. At the same time, you should not be writing about the ceremonies that are there because that's a different level of knowledge. And so, you start seeing people writing these stories, and that's just one thing that we're not supposed to do. And I don't think we do a lot of that as much anymore. So it's kind of interesting how things are changing. Nowadays you have like when I was a kid, the circle, the drumming was like you have to take your hat off, or you put an eagle feather in your hat, or you wear a ceremonial hat with with when you're singing, right? But these days, young guys having their baseball caps with the coolest looking logo on there. There's a disconnect of spirit that's happening with these young people. And yeah, it's great that they're singing great songs. And I still think about a friend of mine, a relation of mine, who said to me like some of these songs they're not meant to be singing; they're only meant to sing through ceremony. And and I said, wow, that's something that, and he's frustrated about that. He's been around a long time. Um, and so when you go to gatherings nowadays, it's very different looking. I don't know whether or not it's just me, um, but we're seem to be more modern with the way how we look at our cultural nowadays. We're more. I remember this old man says to me, "We're more Buffalo Bill. We're entertaining." I said, "Wow, that's a pretty good way of looking at it. We're entertaining." And he said that when he went to ceremony back in the day, he was or powwow gatherings. It was a very serious thing, very serious because sure you have your fun, but now it's more different. And I'm just kind of like wondering about that, like whether or not people are starting to realize this. I'm just trying to make people think about these things. And is there spirit in these things? As I said before, I'm not here to judge on these matters because I'm not the spiritual police. I'm not the one that walks on water. There's only one person I know that walked on water. I'm not that person, and I'm not the one who can make life out of clay. You know, I'm a scabe. You know, but these things that are happening, and I think through we're not following these types of spiritual outlook, is that we're having spiritual sickness happening with the mental health problems. Like spiritual sickness is a gift when we're not doing something we're supposed to be doing. And and the naysayers out there will say, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, go to these things. There's a reason why I don't go to these things. I'm I follow these strict codes that were given to me that those ancestors say to me, and my relatives and teachers say to me, you don't play around with these things. These are very serious matters. And once you start playing around with these things, then something else forms. And I was like, okay, I will not. I don't bring my drum out. Every time there's someone says, let's do a calling, that drum I carry with me is a ceremonial drum. I don't bring it to protest. If you're doing a protest about something and you're singing away, it doesn't become a healing drum anymore. It becomes something else. It becomes a war drum. You know, it loses its healing ability for yourself. It becomes a war drum. You're going to war. And that's what I mean. Everything we do is spiritually connected. Everything. And I sort of stopped doing naming ceremonies for people because I realized that when I do the ceremony in the end, they're not honoring what is given to them through the spirits. This is stuff I do is through ceremony that I was taught by the people, and I don't do that anymore. I don't give out names anymore. I'm very careful where I go with my, because now I'm very careful with my responsibility as a you know as a cultural person. You know, responsibility. That truth that I have. Um, and yeah, you can still be foolish in life, but you still also have to take ownership for everything you're doing. And I'm kind of the person that really like that says, my reflection is my ancestors, those people that I have. And because of that one first teaching I got of looking through things through spiritual eyes, I have to look through things as those spirits out there are shown to me. And so these things happen, you know. Um you don't necessarily have to be all in with the crowd to do your ceremony. You don't necessarily have to prove your spiritualness to somebody else. You don't need to prove that. I think proving something that is quite wrong. I mean, I'm not against people going to, for example, if they're going to um also not kind of think here. Um they'll get back to me. Anyways, if you're going to attending a ceremony and that ribbon dress is not good enough or that is not good enough, and the person doing that in a weird way, that's spiritual bullying. That's just something that happens. People are really quiet about that. Like they don't talk about people out there who are spiritual bullies. This holier than thou attitude that they have. Um, if you're holding those position of responsibility, you also have to hold a position of humility, real deep humility, and so that's part of a spiritual lesson that is also given to ceremony people. Humility. Those 7 teachings out there has to have a real impact on what you're doing. When you talk about ego, love, you don't love, you love all. Creator is all love, right? You love your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother. That's family, your relations. You love your ancestors. You love your your partner. Now let's look outside that. What that love looks like. You love that drug dealer. Do you love that homeless person that you see begging for change? How does that teaching that you carry, that's called love, with that? You know how? You tell that you give food to the homeless. That's how love is performed. The drug person says, "Hey, I'm gonna sponsor you for your addiction so you can be cured or helped out with." That's how love is transferred. So you see, you're starting to seeing how it works, how it really works in real world. Um, and I gotta say, in my personal world, people talk trash. They talk trash about me constantly, and and so on. That's what they do. And I like, okay, well, I'll still sleep well at night. I still got everything I need, so they're not taking out of my fridge. I'm clothed, but that's what they do because people out there are like that. People out there will talk trash about cultural people and ceremony people, saying, "Don't go to that person. Person has something wrong with them," but yet, they don't realize that ska bay is meant for the higher powers out there, for those 4 directions and the ancestors, eh? And I'm seeing quite a bit of that. People disrespecting one another, and they call it, "Oh, we speak to each other in a good way." Don't we? Don't we? You have to be truthful about that. That you are not speaking in a good way to people. I mean, I love teasing my bros. I love teasing my friends out there. I love that because that's general love there. You know, um, because that's what we do. That's family. That he may not be blood to me, but you know what? That's my bro. In the spirit world, that's my family. And that's what we have to look at. That no matter what it is, that person you really like hanging out with is you're going to be your relations in the next life. We're all universal in that spirit world. We really are. And yeah, that's one thing that we're taught as responsible people who hold ceremony, is that we're hold accountability to what we say and do. You know, um, I'm trying to put the message of, like, I say speak yourself in a good way, hear yourself in a good way. It's those spirits out there that watch you every day. That's just what it is. I'll give you this really cool teaching. I love this one. This is from my uncle. He says to me, you see those eagles up there and they're flying in the ceremonies. They're all doing their circle. And they are the ones that are in these powwows. And you're looking at them, people like, oh, hi, 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 right? And so they're seeing it and they're praising these eagles. But those eagles are still there after the powwow's over. You pack up your gear, you're going home. There's a good gathering. I like it. But then things, who you really are, will show out. All of a sudden, you're abusing your kids. You're taking drugs secretly. You're stealing money from things. You know, that's foolish, right? But that eagle is still there. Eagle watches. That eagle still, that spirit watches. You have to hold yourself um, to a higher standard as you get older, as you become more responsible in life. And this is some of the things that I was really warned about as I got older. Um, that I try and do what I can with the people that I meet. There's people I have never met in my life that I really help out. I've never met some people. Um, Here's an example. See one on social media site and they're really cool and they have a really cool thing there, and I always post art bubbles on them, and I put the good phrases on there. And what I do for them is to say, you know what, you're doing a great job. Good. I like being entertained. And people are like that, because you have to put that someone else out there has a different war than you, so you help them. You help out people constantly. um I think for me, I'm going to have to learn to be more selfish with my teachings a little bit more longer, because um I don't think of people that realizes when we do these ceremonies for them, um how serious it is. When they go through the naming ceremony, they got their cultural names that the spirits recognize them. That stays with them. That really stays with them throughout their whole time. They're not recognized by any other name. And if they say, "Well, I went to a different ceremony because whatever happened, I don't like that person, whatever, he's an asshole, whatever it is," but realistically, that name is done, and it's still with them. Um, that's just how it is. Like, that ceremony, as long as done through ceremony, through pipe, sweat dance, sweat lodge, whatever it is, that name is there. Cannot change it, no matter how many times there. And I've seen people that, I got this name. I'm like, what happened to the last name? What happened to the last one you had? Uh, you know, like, okay, I have two names. Two names. The game the government gave me, names that the spirits know me as. That's it. You know. And you know what? I would love to change my name permanently to the names that the spirits gave me. I would. Of course, the government of Canada does not recognize that for some other reason, but there's someone out there who are still fighting. Well, actually, no. I gotta say, I retract that. There's people out there that have names done in the ceremony name. Okay. Yeah. I said before that through our ceremonies and gifts that are given, if I give my shaker to somebody, if I give an item like this away, um, and they use it where it's meant to go, Or this is stuck on someone's desk hanging above a wall or something. It's never been used. That's why sometimes we got to be careful where we give our gifts and items to. People out there are collectors of these things and they just keep it. They never use it. These items have to be used for its purpose, not hanging on a wall. Because every time I go someplace, they'll see a hand drum made, and this person went through. I went to a cultural class to learn that. Well, why is it there then? And you're supposed to sing with it? And they were like, I don't know any songs. There's tons of songs you can learn. There's groups out there that get together every week. You can learn that. You know. When we start using these things, these items, we start commercializing our ways, our medicines. It loses its natural healing ability. And so we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing people out there making little mini buckets, mini items, and they're selling it in packages. They're selling the 4 medicines in a little container, and yet you can go out in the bush free to grab. And that's just what it is. We can never ever, do these things. That's why when I first was given these eagle feathers, my uncle said, "Give it all away." I was kind of shocked because I wanted to do stuff with it. But actually, I remember the last thing I made with it as an eagle staff, as a walking eagle elder staff that had the eagle feathers dripped over it, and it took me a long time to make that. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Okay, so there I am. I'm really proud of my sticks. I made these items really good. I was like, oh wow, I'm going home. I'm gonna see my uncle. I'm gonna show him what I got. I'll give him one of my sticks. He says, so I'm like, yeah. I go there. Hey uncle, look what I made you. I made you a really good walking stick. He's like, but I want that one. But that one has all the feathers and stuff like that. No, I want that one. So he takes the staff that I made for myself, and he says, "Thank you. I'll give this one. I'll give this other one to somebody else." So just like that, those 2 staffs are gone. I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of time putting it into these things I made. Okay, I understand. I think now that staff sits at the Friendship Center in Geraldton. I think that's the last time I seen a poster of that picture of that staff I made for him. He gifted it to somebody else, and that person gifted it to somebody else. So that's how these things are made. They're done. They're used because it passes down. That's what I mean. Some people are just not ready for that. They don't realize how important it is when you get these names are done. It's not a trend. It's something very serious. The spirits will always recognize that. That's what I mean when I reflect on what that elder was sharing with me, and she says to me, "Look through everything through spiritual eyes." You have to look at how the spirits see us on this realm, and that's what changes everything about it. That's why I don't play. I don't play spirit. I don't. I have to really know that those people who have passed on, they say, yeah, that's spirit. It's real spirit. You're going to see those ancestors. You will see them. Um, that's why when I was going to think talking about those people who do evil in the name of the spirits and stuff, I don't want to talk about that. I think I'm not going to share that. That's a different thing. I'm not going to talk about. But we know. I like I said before. You know what? I really thank you all for listening to this podcast. And spiritual gifts, you have them. You have these gifts. You can see things, you can feel things, you can sense things. You just got to train your thought process on these things. And once you see through spiritual eyes, you see how those ancestors really connect ceremony with one another and how we are. then you start like, then your brain like, I get it. I get it. I understand now. It's not about popular. It's not about getting it right. It's not about having my dress or my shirt have the right ribbons. It's about my personal relationship with the creator itself. You know, that's what, when we say spiritual connection, that's exactly what I'm trying to talk about. Say that your spiritual, your individual connecting with the great spirit, with the Manitous out there, all those Manitous, more than just one. We have lots of Manitous spirits, lots, plenty. And I want you guys to reflect on that for a minute. Just think about that. If you're here to this point still listening, just listen to that part where it says, how am I connected to that, the greatest of all things? And then you'll say, holy cow, Creator provides. As I said, thank you guys for showing up for my Blackwater Medicine podcast. This day of, what is today? I can't even think what today is. Today is Friday the 12th, 2024. I'm sorry, I'm just old. I can't get it right yet. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you again.